I remember when I first got to ESPN, Robin Roberts was there too. She was on the early evening sports center, and I was just so taken aback that I was thrown in the midst of all of these people who I watched on television, and trying to figure out my own way at that point in time was pretty damn daunting. I mean, I didn't have to work to get on the, I mean, I was scheduled to do Sports Center. Like that was, I didn't have to, like what you're talking about, kind of have to sing for your supper to get on the air, because there were so many people just trying to get on one show in a way, you know, and I'm wondering if how pressurized that must have been for you at the time.
Well, I mean, think about it. I mean, first of all, we should say, I guess your viewers and listeners know your origin story, but I mean, like, you were there at a time. It was Keith Olbermann, Craig Kilborn. I mean, just Dan Patrick, Giants.
Right. Well, it's similar to what you're talking about arriving at ABC News. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, that was in that regard.
Those were not the people I was listening were not my peers. They were, you know, they were the anchors. I was just a correspondent. But it was real sink or swim. And you know, when you're starting your career, you're an anchor now. I'm an anchor now. We're not worried about getting on air. We have our shows. We're worried about making them as good as possible, but we're not worried about getting on air. But when you are a correspondent, getting on air is like oxygen. And when you're not on air, you're like a fish thrown on the boat. And like, you're just like, I guess it's the opposite now. I switched to an oxygen metaphor now.
No, it's all good.
But anyway, you need... Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Metaphors.
I like it.
The opposite metaphor now. But my point is, like, you're flailing because you're not getting on air. What is your worth? And yeah, and it was very, very competitive. And look, also, like, some very, very tough executive producers and anchors and senior producers and others. I mean, some that were just absolutely lovely and took a chance with me. The very first person to take a chance with me at ABC News, other than the people who hired me, were Diane Sawyer and Shelley Ross, who was the then legendary executive producer of Good Morning America, and they put me on air. And again, it was just work ethic. I can tell you exactly what happened. My big break at ABC News, because you get hired by ABC News, that doesn't mean you're going to succeed at ABC News.
Right.
And I saw lots of really good, talented, smart people get hired by ABC News and just thrown in the Shark Tank, and like you just never saw them again. And then 3 years later, the contract was over, and you hear that they were going to someplace else. But what happened was I was on email, and Schwarzenegger was going on Leno, and he announced that he was. This is 2003. He announced that he was going to run against Gray Davis, the governor of California. He was going to run against him in the recall election. Y'all are having one of those out there. Some of the same candidates. Mary Carey, God bless her. Anyway, I know that's your favorite. I know you've maxed out.
Yes.
If you know what I mean.
Hey now, Cinemaxed out. Yes, I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I call them. Anyway, sorry. I'll keep it clean for the kids. So, anyway, Schwarzenegger was right. So the transcript comes out at like, I don't even know, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, before it airs at 11:30. This is a different era of this. People don't even, the kids listening. The internet existed, but there were no smartphones, no Facebook, no Twitter. It was basically just email and websites was how you got information. Anyway, he announced he was doing this, so I immediately pitched myself to Shelley and Diane and their team. I knew enough. I've been pitching stories for months, having less and less success, but pitching them. Anyway, I was just like, oh, here's an idea. Schwarzenegger's running. Let me do a piece about this, and I will incorporate classic Schwarzenegger film lines in this piece. I know this exists somewhere. But yes. I don't even think the pitch was it. I think it was just the fact that anybody was pitching this to them. That anybody was like, this just happened. I want to be on air. I want to tell the story. Let me tell the story. I'm here. I'll work through the night. I'm ready. And I always tell young people, like, you have to have something that they want. Nobody's going to give you a job to be nice. You have to have something that they want. And it might just be that you're willing to get up at 2 a.m. and do whatever the hell, you know what I mean? It might just be work ethic.
Sure.
That's what I offered. Anyway, that became that. Just I started doing story after story after story, and the next thing I knew, I was living at the Standard in L.A. and covering the recall for Good Morning America.
And now here you are, obviously, all these years later. So, just before we move on, and then we'll get to your book. So obviously, the Schwarzenegger Total Recall, that was an easy one. What else? How else did you work?
I really would like to go back and see. I'm sure.
What else did you work in? What else?
I don't know. It was none of my favorites. It was none of the, Howdy Hauser. If you're watching this, you have a towel wrapped around your head and Cohagen on your ass. That probably didn't. I don't know how to work that one in.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not a tumor.
It's right. It's not a tumor. Okay, so you got a kindergarten cop. Twins might be something you could work in. I'm just trying to see. Obviously, Schwarzenegger with an act winning a recall.
I'm sure I'll be back with part of it. I don't know.
All right.
I'm not saying this was not an audition for the Algonquin Roundtable. Okay, I'm not saying that these are bon mots that I want on my mausoleum someday. All right. I was just saying, I don't think this wasn't Isaac Newton. Yes. My point was not that this was a brilliant idea. I was just like, what do you want me to do? I'm here. I'll do it. You know what I mean?